Hi everyone, Clueless Dad here. I'm in the kitchen and today we're going to be unboxing and installing the Panasonic TK-AS41 Alkaline Ionizer by Panasonic. So this is a home unit for water purification. You install it on the sink next to your faucet and it can be used to basically make alkaline drinking water. So the reason I actually got this is not because I really care about alkaline drinking water, I'll talk about that separately, but because it has this. So it can remove 13 substances from your drinking water. And it's a nice kind of plug-in home unit. And of course, made in Japan, always appreciated. So it's not too heavy, not too big. As you can see from the back of the box, it's a countertop unit which installs on the side of the sink. And it can be used to remove 13 different substances, including chloroform, dichloromethane, bromoform, etc., etc. I don't even know what most of these things are. Interesting one is it can remove lead, which is great, very important, especially for kids, and even the mold smell. So here in Hong Kong, the water is technically supposed to be drinkable, but we always use a Brita water filter. So the reason we ended up buying this is because in the maternity hospital in Japan where we had our baby, they had one of these in all the main sinks in the common areas and the wards in the hospital, and my wife actually thought, okay, we should get something like this at home rather than just using the regular Brita pitcher with the carbon filter. Actually, this one does more than just purify water. It also does things like the alkaline ionizing. But especially for a baby, you want just the straight purification. You don't want acidic water, you don't want alkaline water. So for all intents and purposes, right now, all I'm using this for is just the purification part. And of course, being a good husband, I didn't want to argue with my wife when she said, definitely we should get one of these for home. So she specifically wanted me to get the same one because if that's what the maternity ward trusted, then we should do the same thing. Personally, I think we probably could have found something that does similar without all this alkaline BS, probably for a little bit cheaper, but I didn't want to get in a fight with my wife. Important rule for all new husbands, and especially if you're a new dad and your wife is stressed out, the last thing you want to do is pick a battle about something like water, which is of course very important for the health of the baby. So we're very lucky in that our baby is basically 99.99% breastfeeding right now, so he's not drinking formula. But if your baby is drinking formula, you want to make sure you're using purified water with a neutral pH of 7. We're not going to use the acidic, we're not going to use the alkaline, we're just going to use the neutral. And if your baby is bottle feeding, definitely have to use the neutral, but it's great that you have purified. Okay, so let's get this thing open and see what's inside. So it has some handy instructions telling you basically what you're going to find in here. So we have the nozzle. This actually is the one that goes on the top of the unit to dispense the purified water. We have the diverter. So this guy actually goes onto your faucet and diverts some of the water into the machine when you want to drink purified water. And if you're just using the sink like normal to wash dishes, you basically have this as a pass-through. You probably don't want to unbox this in your kitchen itself, but since I didn't want to have to move the camera around, that's what we're doing. Okay, so now that we got the main unit out, here it is. Not too big. It apparently weighs about 6 kilos, which is like 12 pounds. But maybe that's with the water in it, so this actually doesn't even feel that heavy. We have our handy dandy instruction booklet. This thing is like 70 pages long, but this one is a bilingual one, Chinese and English, because I bought it here in Hong Kong. This is the Hong Kong, maybe Hong Kong and Taiwan version. And definitely it's the Hong Kong version because it has the Hong Kong plug. So here's this unit, and what else do we have? Last but not least, we have a couple odds and ends. In here we have some adapters. Depending on the kind of faucet you have, you can either use this collar or an adapter if it's internally threaded versus externally threaded. There's a zip tie in here so you can connect the hose to your faucet so it doesn't come loose. And then there's also a suction cup so that your drain plug can sit here in your sink and not get in the way. But last but not least, there's actually a pH test kit in here, so that once you've set this up, you can actually check the pH of the water coming out and make sure that's okay. And you can also, I guess, check the pH of your water without the alkaline ionizer on, just to compare. And there's actually some pH testing fluid in here. So you use this test bottle, fill it up with water, make some drips in there, and then see what color it is and compare it on the chart. So it's kind of like high school science class all over again. Since we're not going to actually be doing any alkalizing anytime soon, I think we'll probably skip that for now. So it's actually pretty simple. That's just basically a couple parts. So let's get this guy hooked up. So we have 3 lines here on the bottom. There's, first of all, the black wire is for the power. This uses electrolysis to separate hydrogen atoms in order to change the pH of the water. So obviously you have to have it plugged in all the time. This is the drain hose, which is used to drain out the extra water inside here, and also while it's running, the water that doesn't get purified, actually extra water goes out here. And then there's the line in for the water. This is the one that connects to the faucet head. So those are the 3. And then one of the cool things is, depending on what side of the sink you're putting it on, you can actually run these lines through this side or this side. In this case, we're actually going to put it to the right of our sink, and so I actually want the plug to run this way. So I'll have it come out this side, and I'll keep these guys on this side. So here you can see we have the power cord and then 2 hoses. We have our drain line and also our line in. So this is the one that's going to go to the faucet. This one's going to just drain down into the sink. So first of all, since I want the power to come out the other side, I'll switch that. And as I mentioned, this is the Hong Kong version. So we have our big fat British looking plug here. So let's get this guy out here. And of course, in this case, it's good to have your sink be dry. I haven't used the sink in a couple hours, so it's nice and dried out. The lines here are long enough, so I think even if you have a pretty big faucet, you should be okay. And this one, probably you can even keep it coiled up. Anytime you're dealing with electricity in the kitchen or bathroom where there's a sink or other water source, you've got to be really careful. Make sure you don't splash water or anything, get anyone electrocuted, or blow a fuse. So let's get this nozzle hooked up. As I mentioned, it's basically just a pass-through. So this screws into the existing faucet, and the water can come down here. And if you want to divert it into the machine, you have a couple options: purified, unpurified, and shower. You can either basically do a stream, a shower, or divert it out here. So depending on the type of nozzle that you have on your faucet, you can use these different versions, take this out, use an adapter, etc. In our case, I think we can just screw it in. So I'll take this aerator out. Screw this guy in. So in this case, I'm lucky because I can just use the straight one from here. And let's just get this guy, make sure that we screw it on straight without stripping any threads. And just make sure that it's hand tight. They specifically warn you not to try to use a pipe wrench or anything, because you'll just totally destroy this, because it's basically just cheap plastic. And now let's get the hose hooked up. You want to take off this collar here. Get it started on the hose. Get this thing on. So you just want to get this thing all the way up so that there's no chance of it any water leaking, and then get this collar screwed on as tight as possible just with your fingers, just to make sure it doesn't come loose and start leaking. And again, don't use any pipe wrench or any crescent wrench, because you'll totally destroy this thing, because it's just plastic. So we grab this guy out of the pack, and we want to just make sure that this doesn't come loose. Here we go. Okay, so hopefully that'll stay. Okay, so now we have the drain line, and I need to just keep it out of the way, so there's a suction cup in here that we can use to stick it to the back of the sink, and I'll connect it up back here. So it's pretty simple. It's just a suction cup with a loop on it, and we just want to run this guy through. In this case, I think I will actually try to make a loop so that it stays out of the way. So we'll keep the whole thing low, and let's actually try to run it this way, and of course make sure that it points downwards. So we've got everything connected up. We've got the drain, we've got the power, we've got the water input. The only thing we're missing is actually the nozzle for the purified and or alkaline water out of this guy, which comes out of the top here. And I probably should have done this before I put it in place, but that's okay. I think I can still do it. So again, we face a similar problem where this is actually maybe a little bit longer than we needed. So let's just try to get it rotated so that it's not too in the way of the sink. Okay, so all set. So now, here we go, we got everything lined up. Before we power it on, let's just test out the diverter and everything. So okay, so I can already see that there's some water leaking out of here, so I gotta make sure this is tighter. So it turns out I had some trouble getting a good seal between this screw-on adapter and my faucet. I don't know if it's my faucet or just the adapter, but I really had to take it off, clean it out, tighten it up as hard as I could by hand, because again, you're not supposed to use a tool, just to make sure that this thing wasn't shooting water out when I turned the faucet on too hot. Even now, if I turn it on full blast, water drops start seeping out of the top here, as you can see, but as long as it's not shooting water out, I think I can live. With shower, if I go to straight, this one I think takes a little bit of the pressure off, so it's no problem. So, okay, obviously the bypass works. Now we got to get this thing turned on, and we'll try running it. So, first let's get the power going. Okay, and it's lit up on purified water, so let's turn it on and now switch to purified. And supposedly this takes a couple seconds. Obviously it has to fill up, and now our drain line is dripping as well as our input. I do have some water dripping here, so I'm probably going to want to adjust that, and it's beeping. And you can see that the drain line runs for a couple of seconds, keeps running for a couple of seconds even after you turn this on as the water drains out. I think it just might be that they have such a shitty seal in here that this thing is not good enough. Maybe if they had a softer one, or I could try taking the one out of my old one, but this one doesn't even fit that well, so probably not a good idea. And it's turning all black. So I've got it running now. They say to run it for 4 or 5 minutes to get the filter properly cleaned out and whatnot, but I'm still getting some dripping out of the faucet bypass here, and again it's coming from where the adapter screws on to the pipe. So I'm guessing if I wait a day or two, maybe the gasket in here will swell up and that won't be a problem. But basically if I were to turn this on full blast, it would definitely start leaking and actually spray a little bit, which is kind of annoying. But if I keep it at a medium level, as long as the purifier is on, then it should be okay. And as you can see, the rate of filling up here is actually pretty good. So, you know, this is powerful enough to, you know, fill up a glass or two or a water jug, and it won't be too slow. So, anyway, let's just run a couple more minutes before we try drinking anything. And as you can also see, we've got our drain line running here. So it seems like our suction cup with our loop-de-loop is fine. So let's just take a quick look at the control panel here. We have basically 3 levels of alkaline that you can do, and that corresponds to a pH of like 8, 8.5, or 9. And apparently if you go over 9.5, it's pretty bad for you. And this is for, there's actually labeled in English, drinking water for a new user. So if you're not used to drinking alkaline water, they say to start here. This is good for rice cooking and drinking water if you're used to it, and this is drinking water if you're really, really used to it, I guess. So to switch the type of water you're running through here, you can basically press it, it blinks for a second, and then you'll hear it beep, and then this light comes on. So it just means that at that point, it's ionizing the water. So anytime you switch to a new level, it does that. And there's actually a warning here to say reduce water input when lit up. So if I were to turn this on, it probably will warn me at some point. Yeah, so you can see it starts blinking red, which is also right around when this thing starts leaking. So probably a good idea to avoid that. Besides the alkaline water options, you can also do acidic water. So this one is interesting. It actually will beep continuously while you're doing it, just to remind you not to drink this water. So supposedly this is best for face washing. So if you are in a place that has hard water, apparently the soap can't dissolve in the water very much because of the minerals. So you might want to use slightly acidic water. So if you're in a place with very hard water and you switch to this one, it'll actually come out at about neutral pH. So anyway, it keeps going apparently continuously while you're doing that. So let's switch it off. There we go. And so I guess it waits a second for the water to pass through, and you wait until it beeps before you feel safe to put your cup under here. So there's a continue button, and I guess this is if you turn it on and off and you want to resume whichever mode you were in before. You can just press that. And then this reset button is related to our filter life indicator. So since we just put this guy in, it's basically the first one. As it gets older, it goes into the mid-level, and then it starts blinking when it gets close to the end of its lifespan. And then if you want to replace it, you do that, and then you do reset to, I guess, recalibrate with a new filter. Supposedly, the filter will last about a year, but if you live in a place with extra dirty water, it might actually wear out earlier. But it's cool that it actually somehow internally checks and lets you know if the filter is too dirty. One interesting thing that you don't see on the box, but when you read the booklet it actually says, is anytime that you leave this thing sitting for more than a couple days, you're actually supposed to take the filter out so that the water doesn't collect and get kind of stagnate inside the filter. So that's actually pretty annoying. Anytime you go on a trip for more than a day or two, you're supposed to disassemble this thing, remove the filter, drain it, store the filter in a plastic bag, and then reassemble it when you come back so that the filter doesn't go bad. So I actually, when I bought this thing, I was actually impressed. I'm like, oh, I won't have to change the filter for a year, compared to like a Brita filter where you have to buy multiple filters and change them every couple months. That seemed like a pretty good idea. But now anytime I go on a business trip or we go back to Japan, I'm going to have to remember to take this thing out. And if I don't, if I'm gone for a week or two, what's going to happen to this filter? Am I going to have to go buy a new one? They're not exactly cheap. So that's kind of a drawback, but I guess I'll learn my lesson the hard way if I forget. Okay, so that's basically it. We've got it running now. Here's the water. I've had it flushing through for a couple of minutes. So let's take the taste test. Here we go. Looks pretty pure, right? Should be okay. Let's taste it. Seems to taste okay. Tastes as good as the Brita water, so I guess it's fine. Let me test out the alkaline one too, just to see if there's any difference in the taste. So what the hell, let's go for alkaline level 3. Even though I am a newbie, I supposed to start with this one for a couple weeks till I work my way up. But for the sake of YouTube, let's try it out. So this is very alkaline water. It looks still pretty clear. And let's give it a taste. I think it tastes about the same. So no big deal. Yeah, as near as I can tell, it tastes about the same. So I'm not sure if there's really a different taste. Maybe I can sort of feel the mineral difference with the different pH of the high alkaline water, but pretty much the same. If you guys can tell the difference, please leave a comment and let me know what you think. So there you have it. That's the setup and installation of the TK-AS41. Setup was pretty easy. The only problem I had was with this leaky faucet, which, as I mentioned, may be more a function of my faucet than the adapter. But the usage is pretty simple. Basically, I'm going to keep it on purified water for now. I'm actually going to do a separate video, rant video about alkaline water because I read up on it preparing for this video. So I'll do a separate video on that. Check it out. And if you have any questions, please leave a comment in the comment section. We have more subscribers. We got a lot of views on some of our videos. I'm really pleased with that. Please consider subscribing if you haven't already. Check out some of my other videos. And don't forget to give us a thumbs up. Okay, see you next time on the Clueless Dad.